So this week our main focus is the data dictionary, right? So now we now assume that we have created the data flow diagrams. So our main focus is the data flow dictionary. Okay. So you have actually 2 weeks to complete the data flow dictionary this week, week 7 and the week 8. So so you have actually a little bit of time to do that. Okay. So what do you mean by the data flow dictionary? So we are creating data flow items and describe, or not the data flow, actually the items that we have identified in our process models. So we describe a little bit in detail to make a kind of a dictionary, right? That's what we are doing today. So let's go to the modules. So week 7. So here we are here at the moment. Right. So let's go to the tutorial questions. So I'll download this file. Actually, this will be easier for me. Okay. Okay. Right. So creating data dictionary items. So basically, in the data flow dictionary, we are trying to create data flow descriptions, data store descriptions. So what do you mean by the data store description is entities, right? So we are describing the entities. I think this is very easier for you. You already done data, database subject with me, so you know how to describe the data stores or entities. And then we need to provide the process descriptions, right? So here I have given the note, and also please refer to week 6 lecture, how you're going to develop these elements, right? So so first thing we need to do now if you go through one by one, so we usually once you create data flow diagrams, we uh, we we divide the data flow diagrams to various levels, right? Um, so that's actually way of describing the data, your processes, right? So if you, for example, level 0 diagram, we can go for level 1, and then the level 1 to another level, then another level to another level, right? Then we have a kind of we will come to a place where we can't move further down. I mean, we can't divide the diagram further down. So in that case, we need to describe the logic of that process using process description, right? Using the structured English, right? So we basically use sort of programming, sort of commands like repetitions, then selections, etc., etc. We mix it with the English language, and we describe what is the logic of that particular process, how it flows, etc., etc. So that's called the process description. So I have given here an example here, the process description, and also I have given an example. This example I extracted from the lecture. So here you can see this is the lowest level data flow diagram process, recording custom information or record custom information. So based on this logic, now you can see the new order details comes in from the customer. So that's the flow, data flow, and then some information goes out from the data, this particular process. So how we describe this logic? So this is how we describe the logic using structured English. So you can see there are if else statements, and then sometimes we need to use loops, right? Do while loops. If you continue some same processing activities for number of items, so we can use a loop, etc., etc. So we can actually understand what's going on inside this process. So that is what we need to do according to process description. And then data flow definitions. Now this is where we define the flows, the data flows. Right now here you can see the new order comes in to this process. What do we mean by the new order? What are the elements associated in this new order? Okay, so that is what we call the data flow definition. So how are we going to define the data flows? Now, the thing is, we need to use certain notations. So there are some notations, there are certain symbols we need to use when you describe these data flows. Okay. Um, so, for example, if you think about this new order, right? So this new order consists of the number of elements, right? It consists of a customer name, customer address, credit card information, then item numbers, and the quantity on hand, quantities of each item, etc., etc. Right? So all these elements consist in the new order, right? So how are we going to describe that? We have to use these symbols. So now there are specific symbols we need to use. So we use the composition symbol here, the equal sign. So we can say the new order composed of these items. So that's what we mean by the composition. And then we list items together with this plus sign, right? That's called the concatenation, right? So meaning is this and this and this. That's what we mean by that. So this is a collection of it. That's what we are showing in the plus sign. And then in some circumstances we need to use the iteration. So we can use the braces, curly braces or curly brackets to show multiple occurrences of the items, right? So you can see here in this new order data flow, the item numbers and the quantities of the item is repeating for the each and every element, right, or each and every product in that particular order. So there is a repetition, or there is a multiple occurrences of these two elements. So we show it inside the curly braces. Uh, and then there are some other stuff like this selection. If you want to choose one alternative, so we can use the brackets together with this sign. We can list the alternative separated by a hash sign like here. And then the optional, sometimes we may have optional selections. So if in that case we need to use the parentheses to separate each option. For the discrete values, we use the quotation mark. Sometimes we send the information or notification to the customer with a notice, right? Please pay such and such amount by this day, right? So that notice or that message has to accompany with the specific email. In that case, we can use the quotation marks to indicate that discrete value. And then if I want to put the comments in certain places, in certain data flow items, I can use the asterisks, right? So this is how we describe the data flows in a data flow diagram, right? That's another part of the data dictionary. And then then we need to describe the what do you call the entities or data stores. I think this part is very easy because we already knows. So if you know how to create the table, right? So that when you write the create table statement, of course we are describing the elements in each and every table, column, attribute, right? What is the primary key, etc., etc. So you can actually use the create table statement kind of a definition, or maybe you can use little bit like this, right? So each element, what is a positive integer, or it is how many numeric digits we have, right, etc., etc., and put a kind of a little bit of a description in each column. So what is this attribute? What do you mean by this attribute, right? And then the type of the data. Now that's what we mean by the data dictionary. So if you collect all these stuff together, flow definitions, a process definition, data store definitions, that's called the data dictionary, right? So in this week, for next week actually, that's what you need to do in your project. So you need to create this data dictionary items, right? So actually what I will do, if I want to create data dictionary items, what I will do is I'll open an Excel sheet, and I open 3 tabs. And first tab I would say this is my data flow definition, and then the next tab I'll say this is my data store definition, and then the next tab is my process description, right? Process description. So then that will be easier for me. So once you um, done that, then you can submit the same file. I will actually, I think someone has indicated to me that for Excel file format is not recognized. Actually, the good thing is maybe use a Word document. What you can do is you populate, you develop your answers here, and then maybe you can take a screenshot, because the Word document is high, but why I like the whole Word document, because it's easy to mark. Excel sheet, the data will go here and there in my interface because you can't see it, but in my interface, so the data will be a bit distorted. So it's much better you use, you can actually record it in first in Excel sheet and maybe take a screenshot, right? Take a screenshot and then copy it into the Word document. I think that's the best way to do that, right? But for the organizing, to organization purpose, you can use the Excel sheet, okay? And the other important thing, and another important actually, man, I like you to, I don't know whether you have referred, I have actually uploaded already there I guess two sample assignments, right? If you go there, the last section here, you can see the 2 sample assignments I have uploaded. So it's actually good you refer to these assignments. So if you go to these now, these are my previous, long back when I'm teaching at higher education for the master students. They create this whole document for a whole one project, right? So you get a kind of an idea how they develop these items. So you can see in this particular context, they have developed, they actually put sort of, system vision document. They started with the system vision document, and then they develop these data flow diagrams, data flow definitions, etc., etc. And then they go for object-oriented model. We'll come to that later on. So I think best way is to refer to this assignment, sample assignment, so you can get a kind of an idea how they have developed. Now see, this is the context diagram that they have developed. Level 0 diagram, and level 1 diagram. So what they have done, they have actually break down the range movie into smaller levels. That's what we call by the level 1, and then level 2, and then they break down the second process, this one, reserve movie, as level 2. That's the level 2. So likewise, you can see they have breakdown the level 0 diagrams to different smaller parts, and then they develop this entity relationship diagram. Actually, this has to be done first before you develop this one, because these entities directly come from this ERD diagram, right? And then they have developed this data flow dictionary. Actually, they haven't included the event table here, but you can event table. Was not a requirement for their project. And then they developed this data flow dictionary, right? Data flow dictionary. You can see here how they have developed Now, when it comes to data flow definitions, you need to focus on level 0 diagram, right? Not the lower level diagram, level 0 diagrams, right? So level, if you focus on level 0 diagram, you can take all the data flow items in level 0. For example, in this case, level 0 diagram somewhere here. Here, this is the level 0 diagram. Can I actually, so in this case, so this is the level 0 diagram. So they took all these definitions, so data flows, and then they define their level 0. Then they define all these data flow items, right? So there are a lot of data flow definitions, and then also they define level 2 data flow items as well. But for you, you don't need to define like that. So you can focus on level 0. And then this is how they have done the data dictionary description, or sorry, what do you call, data store definition. So and they have done for all I think a few data stores, and then they come to object oriented and model. So this is what you don't need to focus on this now. And then this is the first assignment, and then there is another assignment. Now this sample assignment, there are some pros and cons on each of these assignments, what I have actually listed here. It does not have a good data dictionary. In the second one, actually, second assignment has a good data dictionary, I believe. So these students actually done. Their diagrams are not so good, but their data dictionary is very good. So if you go to this one, you can see they do the same thing, but for the different case study. So this is the context diagram. Level, now see the level 0 is for this, it's very complicated, a bit messy. It's not a very good diagram, I would say. And then they done a level, I mean lower level diagram, but they're using the different notation styles, but it's okay. And yeah, so and then they have, okay, so this is yeah, so their data flow dictionary is quite good, I believe. So here you can take this as an example, right? How to do the data flow dictionary. And then this is the data, actually, this is the process, this is description. Now remember, I have told you process descriptions. So they took that lower level process, for example, accept, return process, and then they describe that in detail using structured English. I think this dictionary is much more easier to follow. So if you refer to these two examples, you will get a kind of an idea how to do that. Okay, so I strongly recommend you to follow these two examples, right? So it's inside the module folder. If you go down, you will find out that sample assignments. Okay, so please refer to it. Okay, now let's come back to our now let's go to yeah, let's come to our tutorial questions for today. So I'll just close this. I'll close this. Right, so tutorial questions, this is what we need to do here. Right, so the following question relate to the library, right? So each of the questions represent only one event, right? So they have given a kind of a bunch of scenarios. So each scenario actually focusing on one event, right? Not there are no multiple events. There's a one event. So that means we can expect only one data flow, right? One or a couple of data flows or one data flow into the process or out from the process. Okay, so we need to determine that data flow, right? For each of the event, provide the data flow dictionary description of the data flows. So you can see when you read this, there are multiple occurrences, but it's actually talking about the same same event. Right, now let's go through the first one. The new customer registers to join the library, right? She provides her name, date of birth, address, and the phone number, right? So when the customer registers to join the library, so these are the elements, these are the information that she is providing or they are providing. These details are recorded and she is issued with a membership card with her name and the membership number and the date of the membership, right? So you can see there are two types, there are two information flows. One is coming into the system, one is going out from the system, right? So what is coming into the system? New member information, right? So the new member is providing some sort of an information to the system. And then now if I draw a diagram, if I draw a data flow fragment, it looks like, now let me actually take the paint. If I take the paint, give you a small sketch here. So if I have um, a diagram, so I may have a process like this. It may be a process or the use case. For example, we can have process uh, new member um, details, right? And then we may have an external agent, right? So this is the new member, new member, right? And then we may have some data stores here. Okay, so something like that. And then this new member, according to this case, so what is the event in this case? New member wants to register, join the library, right? That's the event, right? So for that, she is providing some information, right? So there is information comes in. So that's the trigger, right? That's the trigger. So trigger is the information flow, right? So that trigger is, what is this? Member details, right? Member details comes in, right? And then there's a process, and then the output. So this is the external agent, right? So the output is, what is the output in this case? So the output in this case is what? So we are providing the membership card, isn't it? So the output is membership card. And then we have a bunch of maybe data flows. We maybe maybe we write somewhere, because this is not necessary in this case. So now we need to focus on these two data flows, right? Now this is the element. This is one fragment, probably. Maybe this may be our fragment number one. Okay, fragment number one. So what we need is to define these two data flows, right? These two data flows. So what we can do is we can go to Excel sheet. So this is the data flow, and what I will do is actually I'll copy the symbols first, because I want to keep a copy of symbols, data flow symbol, because then it will be very easy. So I just copy it from the lecture note, right? And then the other thing is, it's good to have example in front of me. What I will do, I'll go to that sample assignment, and I take one of the samples, a screenshot, and then I just keep in front of me, right? So I'll use the same, the format to define these data flows, okay, using these symbols, right? So now we can do that. So let's draw a small table like this for the first example with maybe in the first one we can say data flow name. Yes, data flow name. Okay, data flow name. And then the second column is the items, right? So I list all the items in that data flow here, and then description, right? So description, right? So I'll make a kind of a small table. So in this case, I have only two data flows. Just make it like this. Just highlight capital. Okay, right. So the first data flow is this one. It comes inside member details. So here the first data flow is member details, right? And then the second flow is, that's the outflow. This is membership card, right? And now I can list the items, right? So what the items it contains? So it says the new customer registered to join the library. She provides a name, right? Her name, date of birth, address, and the phone number, right? So these are the elements. So what I can do is I can now list the elements here. So we can say member name. So I just make it a little bigger. Right, so member name plus actually I need to use equal sign here. So this consists of, now see here in this example, equal, right? Member name, or if you want to more specific, you can say member first name, member surname, etc., etc. But I will use member name. Okay, member name plus then the member date of birth, right? Member date of birth. Okay, and also it contains member address and phone number, right? So member phone number. So I can like something like that. Okay, and then here I put the description, right? So like what they have done here. So I can say here, new member provide details to join the library, right? So new member provides details to join library. Yeah. Okay. So likewise, same approach here. The second description is the membership card. Okay, so membership cards goes in. So what are the elements of the membership cards usually contain? So I do sometimes here they are giving. So membership card which has her name and the membership number and the date of the membership, right? Member number, member name, and the date of membership. So easy. So they already given us the elements. So I can say here equals member number, okay, and member name, name plus date of membership, right? Date of membership. I guess yeah, you need to maybe format this cell to text. Should be okay. Oops, because I put the equal sign. That's the reason. Maybe you can format different, right? And then we can provide here what is the information we can provide here? We can say this is issue of membership card to the patron, right? So that's how we actually develop our data flow description. Okay, so that's the first one. Okay, so I think we have done the first for the first scenario. Okay, that's the answer to the first scenario. So likewise, now we can move to the second one. Okay, so how about the second one? What the second one says? So second one says the member borrows books from the library. She passes her membership card across the scanner, which records her membership number, right? She then scans the books. The system obtains the member. Sorry, the system obtains the book numbers from the labels on the books. Probably it reads from the barcodes, right? And when finished, the system records the loans and they issue a borrowing slip to the member, which includes the membership number, titles of the books borrowed, and the due date of each book. Right? Each book has its own due date, as this can vary from book to book. Right? So what's actually going into the system, and what goes out from the system in this case? What is the use case? So this is maybe process the loan, right? Processing the loan. That's what the use case looks like. Okay. So what they do, what the member or patron is doing is first they scan the membership number. So that's the information comes into the system, right? That's the information inflow, right? And then scans the book details, right? Scanning the books. So these are the basically two information that system is getting from the patron, right? Membership card details plus the book information, right? And then what happens? The system will process the information and send a borrowing slip to the member, right? That's the outflow. Okay, so there are two inflows and there is one outflow, right? What are the two inflows? Membership card details and book details. And what is the output? Output is a borrowing slip, right? Goes out. Okay, so we can actually now define that in the same. And so what I will do, I can have now sort of table. Okay, for example, now I have created here somewhere here. So I can have one saying, okay, so this is my, sorry, I just can put it here. Okay. Maybe I will put somewhere. Okay. So let me actually put somewhere. I'll draw the diagram. I have the answer, but I'll draw the diagram. So I can have the same table. So data flow name. Let me. So what are the two three data flows? So first one is membership card. And then the book details or book details, and the outflow is the borrowing slip, right? Right, so the membership card, it's easy, so we already captured that information. But in this case, membership card, in this case, we need not to actually input everything, right? So what it does is the system actually scans the membership number, right? So the item in this case for the membership card is membership number. We don't need to actually read everything, isn't it? So that's what the machine is reading, membership number. Okay. So we can provide a description saying this is we can say member scans membership card. And then the book details, right? So what are the book details? So when you read the books, when you actually how they loan the book, so that it says she then scans the book. The system obtained the book numbers from the labels on the book, so it reads the book numbers, right? So barcode, right? There may be the barcode. So that means, so when finished, the system records the loan and issues a borrowing slip, right? So the book. So what is the notation we need to use in this case? So how many books we have? There can be number of books, isn't it? So that means there are some information occurred multiple times. So the book numbers can occur in multiple times. So book one, book two, book three, etc., etc. So in that case, I need to use this symbol, curly braces, isn't it? So I would say you have to put the equal sign. So I can put curly brace and say book number. So this indicates that I have multiple items, right? So we can say member scans book details. Right, so that's the next segment. And then the system is issuing the borrowing slip. So in the borrowing slip, it says it includes the membership number, title of the books borrowed, and the due date of each book. Okay, due date of each book. All right, so you can see in here, in this case, there are some items are repeating, or there are multiple occurrences. So for example, the title of the book and the book number is repeats or occur multiple times, because if you borrow 5 books, we have 5 instances, right, in our borrowing slip. But membership number actually has only one occurrence, right? So how are you going to put these two together? So we still can use the concatenation symbol or equal sign. So we can say borrowing slip consists of member number, right? Member number plus, right? Plus repeating items. What are the repeating items? Book title plus book due date, isn't it? Due date. So these are the repeating items, right? So here we can say this description, library issues of borrowing slips, right? Okay. So that's the answer to the second one. Okay, that's the answer to the second one. Okay. Right. So third one. Actually, third one, I like you to attempt. Right. So can you guys attempt the third one and tell me what are the items, probable items that you can see in this event, right? What are the data inflow? What are the data outflow? And tell me what are the elements in each of the flow. I'll give you a couple of minutes. I want everyone to try this one based on this. So just type your answer, please. I'll give you a couple of minutes. Okay, few minutes, 2 minutes. Anyone who like to answer that question? So what are the data flows you can see in here in this case? Any idea? Now, when you read, you should imagine what are the data flows. Now, it says the member returns her books, right? So if you have an external agent called the member or the patron, so the patron is returning the book. So book details comes in to the system, right? So that's the one data flow. Then the librarian scans the books for the book numbers, right? The borrowing records are updated. Okay. Now, how do we need to actually record that one? The librarian scans the book for the book numbers and borrowing records are updated. Probably not, because we are developing this system for the library. So the librarian activities is one of the process, right? One of the process activities. So it's not an external agent, right? Librarian itself is a represented in the process. So we don't need to actually, there's no data flow there, right? Then it says that the system alerts the librarian if the book has been reserved and provides the membership number and the name of the member who reserved the book. Okay. Now in this case, it says the reservation details, right? Now here, if you assume that okay, if the return book has a reservation, then if I assume that okay, once the book has been returned by someone, so that means we need to send some sort of a message to the reserved person. Okay, your book has been received, right? Maybe you can use that as a part of the data flow, or otherwise you can treat it as part of the process without having any data flow. It's a process inside the process. Okay, so either case is okay. So I prefer to actually treat this as a data flow, because then we can alert the new the reserve person your book has been reserved, right? And then the final one, if the book was overdue, then the fine is recorded against the member. So that means there is a fine, maybe a fine is recorded in the member, then we need to communicate that fine to the member, right? So that's a data outflow as well, the fine detail. Okay. So there is a data inflow, that the books that return, that's the inflow, and probably there are some data outflows. You can the last one is data outflow, the fine due, and probably the reservation advice is another data outflow from the system. Okay. Now you can see that it's not an easy task to identify this, because you need to have, this is a one event, right? So one event, but there are multiple occurrences. It's not the multiple events, okay? So one event, all these occurrences associated with one event. It associated with the return books, when the books have been returned. If the member wants to return the books, then other occurrences happens afterwards. It attached to the same this event. Okay. Right. So if I develop the data dictionary or the data flow items, so how it looks like, so I can actually have another table. So let's say I just do the same thing here. And the other important thing is, guys, you make sure that you, I just actually forget here. Sorry, I just insert. Um, maybe it's actually good practice to write the heading for each data flow. Maybe you can see here in this case, you can show, you can tell the first one is process the new member. That's the data flow associated with that process new member. Then it is actually clear which process you are focusing on. And the second one is processing the loan, process loan. And the third one now we are doing is process book returns, isn't it? Process book returns. Right, so I can use the same table. Just copy the same table here and delete this. Right, so let's record the data. The first data is return books or book details, right? So book details comes into the system. So the patron can return multiple books, right? So that means we need to have a curly brace. So basically, we capturing the book number. We are not capturing everything. So book number is important in terms of the system, right? So we can say here patron returns books. Okay. So and the second one is we send the fines if there is a overdue items we use send the fines to the patron, right? So you can say a fines due is going back from the system to the patron. So probably you can say this consists of the fine amount. Okay. So we can say calculate fines for overdue items, right? Overdue items. And then if you want to have another data outflow, in this case, the reservation advice, if you assume that it goes to the the reserve person, so we can have another outflow in this case, reservation advice. So the reservation advice, according to their scenario, okay, it provides the membership number and the name of the member who reserved the book, right? So member number, member name, and then probably the book number is going to the member or the reserve person, detailing this is what you have reserved, these are the items, right? So member number plus member name plus and then the book details, right? So book numbers plus book title. So all these goes to the reserve person, okay? And then we can say in this case process book reservations, right? Process book reservations, right? So that's our third one. Okay. Does it make sense, guys? How to write now the data flow descriptions? Does it make sense? So I'm just showing you how to do that. Can you please tell me yes if you got the idea? Yes, you got it. So how about others? Others are very only Molly is talking today. What happened to others? Jason, June, Liam, Matthew Marber, Matthew Hume, Mugadesh, Rishi, Shana, Sia, Eugene. Did you get the idea how to draw, how to describe the data flows? Okay. Slowly getting it. Yeah. Okay. So Shanal, you need to also watch the recording. Yeah. So what we are doing actually describing the data flows in your level 0 diagram. That's what we are doing using these symbols, right? Now that's why, guys, I'm just telling you again. So your event table has to be, perfect, right? I would say nearly perfect, because otherwise, everything that you are using here is faulty, right? So the event, if your event table is correct, your data flow diagrams are okay, and then the data flow dictionaries are okay, because everything is based on your event table, right? So likewise, you can actually build for the other cases. Now, for example, now let's go to the next one. So the next one is now the patron has returned the books, and the next one is the member. A member is borrowing the book, browsing the book catalog. She finds the book as she would like to reserve and select the book for the reservation. Okay. So how are you going to do that? If the book is available in the library, the system replies with the message book is available, else it records the reservation for the book, right? So how are you going to record that information? So the member is browsing the book catalog. She finds the book and she would like to reserve it and select the book for the reservation, right? So that's the inflow, right? That's the inflow. So when the member browses the catalog, and if she selects something, and then if she reserve that, that's the inflow, right? That's it. So that means the book details or book number for that particular item comes into the system, right? And then if the book is available in the library system, it replies with the message book is available, as it record the reservation for the book, right? So that's the outflow, right? See, that's the outflow. So the outflow is saying, okay, so the book is available. Okay, book is available, right? So we need to capture that in our data flow description. So if I draw another table, so I just copy the same table. So I just paste it here, delete this, and then change it. Okay, now I just wanted to put a kind of a heading. So what is the appropriate heading? Maybe we can say process online reservation or something like that. That's the process name basically. Process online reservations, right? Basically, that's the use case, right? That's the use case. Now here we are naming the use case, right? This use case, these are the data flows. This use case, these are the data flows. This use case, these are the data flows, etc., etc. Okay. Okay. For this use case, what are the data flows? So the member select the book from the online. So the book, maybe we can say reservation, right? Book reservation, that's the data flow, it comes to the system. So the book reservation we include, but it says only one book at the time, right? So they haven't actually mentioned multiple books, so we need to provide the information for just one book. So that means in this case we have only a book number, that's it. Book number, there is no curly braces because it's just a one item. So again, I have a problem because you need to format sometimes the cells. So I just remove the equal sign. Right, so we can say in this case, patron is selecting the book for the reservation. Patron selecting a book for something like that. And then what happened, the system is notify saying that the book has been reserved, right? So we can say reservation details. goes back to the member. So this is actually consists of what? So it actually accompanied a sort of a message, right? So we can say the follow. Now it's a discrete, right? It's a discrete message. So I'm using double quote, double quotation mark, right? It says maybe you can say the book has been reserved, or we can say the following book has been reserved, right? And then plus we can say, right, book number, right? Book number plus book title, right? Right. So then we can say reservation advice, something like that. Okay. So reservation advice. So we have one inflow and one outflow from this particular use case. Okay. So likewise, we can move to the next one. So the next one is now let's read the next one. So each evening at the midnight, the library system automatically runs the program that finds the book loans that are overdue, right? The system determines the member who has borrowed the book and sends an email to that member, right? Now, what kind of event is that? Each evening at the midnight, the library system automatically runs. So that means it's a temporal event, right? It runs a program that finds the book loans that are overdue. The system determines the member who has borrowed the book and sends an email to the member. The email includes the member number, member name, the title of the book borrowed, and the due date of the book, plus a message requesting the book to be returned. So actually, it looks the same kind of logic in this case. So here, so we are sending a kind of what is the process in this case? So we can say this is overdue notice, right? So this is overdue notice sending to the members, right? So that's the use case, right? Maybe we can say we can have a process called send overdue. No, so that is my use case. Okay. So let's take the same structure. Same structure. So I just delete this. So what are the data flows in this case? What are the data flows you can identify here? Okay. So basically, now we don't need to actually show the things what happening inside the process, but what we can show is the overdue notice, right? So it goes from the system to the external agent called the patron, right? This overdue notice, this overdue message. So we can say actually there is only one outflow, overdue notice, right? So it says it accompanying a message saying requesting the book to be returned. So we can say the same, we can say adapt the same approach. You can say please return following overdue books as soon as possible, right? That's the message. And then it followed by the items, right? So we can say there's a member number, So we need to include the member number and member name, right? In that message, we need to include the member name. So that's what they are saying here. Sends the email to the member. The email includes the member number, member name, the title of the book borrowed, and the due date, right? Then we can say, so if they have multiple books, so we have to actually put sort of this curly brace. We can say the book title plus due date. Or otherwise, what you can do is, if you think this is looks a bit ugly, because you have the discrete message plus the element. So what we can do is, actually the best way to do this is, rather than having all this mixing up, what I will do is, in this case, I'll actually take this message content into another cell. For example, I just put it here inside the quotation mark, and actually that's much better. And then here, the reservation details, I just put the message plus book number plus book title, and then I have another description here. Message is equal to, this is the message, right? So I describe this this message in a different line, right? And same applies here, because it's bit so, but because that's what I think these guys have done, and this is actually much better because it's give a kind of a better idea. So we can do the same here. So I remove the message content. I remove the message content to the new new line. Okay. Use the double quotes, and then I say this is my message. Right, so here I just include, okay, this includes the message plus plus these details, right? And then you can provide kind of a bit of a description. You can say send overdue notice. So you can say here, this is my message content, right? And here also you can say, this is my message content, right? So then it's very clear, right? So each element I have, breakdown. Okay, so that's about this one. And then the last one, I think this is the last one. Yeah, that's the last one. So the last one is, now a member has been issued a fine, right? The member pays the fine and the librarian records the amount paid. The payment is recorded and the receipt is issued, which details the member number and the name, amount paid, and the date paid. If there is a still amount outstanding, the receipt also include the outstanding amount, right? So we already issued the fine in our earlier, right? You can see here in this case the fines. This is the data outflow from this process, and in this here they are processing the fine payments, right? So fines comes in, or the payment details comes in to the system, and then the system issues the receipt in this process. So this process is, maybe you can say, process fines, right? This is the use case, right? This is the use case. Okay, so we can actually use now, let's actually develop that process fines. that's the use case. So I use the same structure. I just copy the structure. Okay, now let's try. So payment details comes into the system. So the payment details, what is the payment detail contain, right? So we can say payment detail consists in this case. Actually, we need to identify the member number, and then payment details. Let's assume that they are paying by the credit card, right? And that means we need to have payer's name, right? You can say payer name. So in a typical credit card, what are the contents? Payer name, maybe expired. Maybe we can say card number. Expiry date. And then the expiry date and the CCV, the back side of the card, and then the amount, right? Finally, the amount. So basically, these are the items, right? So the description is record payment details, right? And then the system is issuing a receipt back to the patron, right? So the pay in the receipt contains the payment recorded and receipt issued, which details the member number, the name, amount paid, and the date paid. And then if there is outstanding amount, we need to include that in the receipt as well. So let's record that. It's contain the member member number, and it contains the member name, percentage member name, and then amount paid, right? Amount paid, and then date paid, and then we need to include the outstanding amounts, right? Outstanding if there is any amount outstanding. Okay, so then we have to include outstanding, so that we can have so the particular patron can have multiple books outstanding. For each book they may have outstanding certain amounts, right? So that means I need to use a curly brace. Okay, so you can say we need to capture a book number, book name, and outstanding amount. Right, outstanding. That's what we need to include in that receipt, right? So that's the outflow from the system to the patron, right? So we can say here issue a receipt. Right, so that's the data flow description for this case study, right? So what we have done, we went through the symbols, right? And then we list each process or use case in your so these use cases are coming from your event table. Okay, use case 1, use case 2, use case 3, and then we take all the data flow inflows and outflows, right? And we use this we use the same format to record the information, and that's it. That's the final data flow dictionary item for this scenario. Okay, Right. So any questions regarding these questions, guys? Anything you, does it make sense now? We haven't done the data store and we haven't done the process description. So if you go to the second question, question two is the Acme Garage. Remember the Acme Garage? So in the Acme Garage, they ask us to do the same thing. We need to actually define the three data flows based on the three events. Now remember the event table that we have created for that Garage. So from that event table, we can identify data flows. So we need to define three data flows based in the three events. That means three rows. If you take the three rows in our event table, I can clearly find out the data inflow and outflows. And then one process description and three data stores and related element descriptions. So I do the same as like here, I create these three tabs, and I do the same thing, right? So first I do the first one, then the second one, and then I'll go for the data flow, data store description and the process description.